Part 135. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhenshen. Chapter 1341. In the private world Yu Yu Hakusho, Xiaoming, and the Chimera ants are allies. He has a good relationship with the Ant King and the guards. After all, Xiaoming saved Miru M and the Chimera ants and changed their fate. Al Yapfu and Yuppie are naturally very grateful to Xiaoming. Miru M is also grateful to Xiaoming, not because of his own life, but because Xiaoming helped Xiaomei and transplanted her eyes. Logically speaking, with such a relationship, Xiaoming seems to be responsible for the Ant King and Xiaomei in the secret realm of Hunter x Hunter, and arrange a living space for the Chimera ants. However, if you work hard in this direction, it is too dangerous. After all, Miru M's transformation from darkness to light is a process full of variables and almost unrepeatable. Once it fails, the humans in the secret realm may face a catastrophe. Even if it succeeds, millions of humans will die in the process. Among them are Master Netero, President Kate, and others. The price is too high. Therefore, Xiaoming came to play in the secret realm this time with the determination to destroy the Chimera ants. Under his arrangement and influence, the power of the human side is very strong, while the power of the Chimera ant side is a step slower than the original. In the original, there are several key nodes for the growth of the strength of the Chimera ants. The first is the birth of Neferpitou. A-level masters make the defense of the Chimera ants unprecedentedly strong. Even if there is only one guard like Neferpitou, President Netero, with Nob and Mo did not dare to rush over directly. It can be seen how powerful it is. The second node is that the whole tribe learns telekinesis. There is not much difference between ordinary Chimera ant soldiers and whether they can use telekinesis. And after the division commander learns telekinesis, he will definitely become a phoenix from a black chicken. Next, Alyapafu, Yuppie and Ant King Miru M were born in turn. In the Chimera ant tribe, only the Ant King and the three guards are born with the ability to use telekinesis. The reason why other Chimera ants could learn telekinesis was because of a coincidence caused by the doubles between Gon and Killua. Later, Neferpitou found the living Bakura and tortured him to get the knowledge about telekinesis. It was popularized among the Chimera ant army. In this life, Lamoro met Kurora, Illumi, and Kurd. They died miserably. Division Commander Corrido was on the side, but fortunately he could fly and escaped with his life. He was very smart and knew that most Chimera ants had human blood. In this case, Chimera ants should also be able to use human power. Then he remembered the rare prey captured, Bakura. That should be a human who knows about telekinesis. Just ask him. So Corrido made a special trip to the Chimera ants' canteen to look for him. Unexpectedly, Bakura had already hidden under the pile of bones. He could not be found. Of course, after Neferpitou was born, her powerful Madoka still discovered Bakura and got the basic knowledge about telekinesis as in the original. However, the problem is that the Chimera ants don't know how to stimulate their own telekinesis. According to the information obtained from Bakura's brain, it is very difficult to cultivate telekinesis. Only geniuses can learn it. They don't know that as long as they are hit hard by a telekinetic user, they can activate the telekinesis of the Chimera ants. This shortcut has never been discovered by the Chimera ants. Although Neferpitou is still as powerful as in the original, the Chimera ants have not collectively learned telekinesis. As a result, the Chimera ants' military strength is not strong. Only a few division commanders have learned it with their talents, and they can't fully apply it. If they are given time to explore slowly, they will probably find a shortcut in time. However, Xiaoming does not intend to give them this time. Countless puppets and skeleton soldiers poured into the forest, searching for the nest of the Chimera ants. Seeing the enemy getting closer and closer, the queen couldn't starve, so Neferpitou had to send most of the Chimera ants out to meet the enemy and forage for food. The Chimera ants, who didn't know telekinesis yet, suffered heavy casualties in the face of the human army and masters. Many Chimera Ant captains and division commanders died young. The worst of them was the Chameleon Division Commander Merlion. He would have changed camps in the later period and helped the human side fight. But in this life, he received a box lunch early. And he was killed by a group of cannon fodder. The reason is very simple. Merlion's strength is in invisibility. His strength and physique are very poor, and his defense can't even withstand a blow from the Chimera Ant captain. In the later period, Merlion has the super transmutation telekinesis ability God's alibi. If he had this ability, he might not have died. However, at this point in time, he currently only knows ordinary optical invisibility. If his body is touched, he will still be discovered. Xiao Ming's army is like a carpet, advancing on the ground, with almost no open space. So Merlion hid in a tree to hide. Unexpectedly, among the animal skeleton soldiers, there were also soldiers that jumped back and forth between the trees, and there were quite a few of them. Merlion failed to dodge these guys and was stepped on hard by a gibbon skeleton soldier, exposing himself. In the end, he was scratched to death by a group of skeleton soldiers. It was horrible. For the sake of their acquaintance, Xiao Ming used his stomach to collect his body. He was the only division commander killed by cannon fodder. Most of the other captains and division commanders died at the hands of the strong. They used their lives to slow down the pace of the human army. Cheetah Kid has the fastest speed among the division commanders. His corps was very unlucky to encounter the Phantom Troop. His men were quickly slaughtered. This guy got angry. Although he couldn't beat the troop head-on, he kept harassing the troop around. Anyway, no one could catch him. Even the members of the troop couldn't keep up with Kid's speed. However, the Phantom Troop's reputation as a dangerous A-level criminal is not bragging. Franklin's telekinetic ability two-handed machine gun can cover a large area, which is a big limitation for Kid. Then the commander made a hunting plan. He arranged for Maki to quietly lay out a lot of silk threads in the woods. Maki's telekinetic silk threads are very tough. If Kid is scratched while running at high speed, he will also be injured. Maybe he will be seriously injured. After being scratched several times, Cheetah had to be more careful, and his speed naturally dropped. Then Kyubi saw the right time and activated his copying ability, suddenly copying countless poisonous and barbed wires in the woods. The layers of wire mesh are like a maze, and they can be covered at any time. Kido was trapped in a very small area while running inside. Finally, the number 10 member, Lef, who was wrapped like a mummy, ended the battle with his ultimate move Jupiter. It was a huge sphere made of telekinesis, which looked like Jupiter. It fell and hit Kido to death. People have strengths and weaknesses. Among the Chimera Ant Division leaders, Kido was the fastest, but his physique was not strong enough and his health bar was not thick. It was a worthy death that he was beaten to death by many people in the Phantom Troop. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 1342. The Phantom Troop is divided into two units. The Cheetah Kido Division encountered the half led by the commander. The other half was led by Phaeton. As fate would have it, they encountered the troops of the division commander, Scorpion Queen Zazan. Zazan is a Chimera Ant with a pretty good talent. At this time, she has learned telekinesis. However, she has not been able to fully develop it, and can only strengthen herself. So Phaeton does not need to use his ultimate move Unforgivable Sinner to deal with her. He just chopped her into dumpling stuffing. Her subordinates were all eliminated by other members of the brigade. These guys don't even have telekinesis and can't cause any trouble to the brigade. The team of the division commander Corrido is mostly flying Chimera Ants. They are the rare guys who can survive the cannon fodder human sea tactics. There are actually flying troops among the undead troops, but they need special development. It doesn't mean that flying animals such as birds and bats will fly after their bones become skeleton soldiers. In life, they can fly by flapping their wings to use the buoyancy of the air, but after they are transformed into undead, they have no feathers and membranes, and only a few bones. They cannot use the buoyancy of the air and cannot fly at all. Therefore, except for special soldiers such as ghosts, other undead creatures that can fly need to be specially modified to give them the ability to fly with magic power. Xiaoming has learned the magic of summoning flying skeleton soldiers in the game, but he didn't think of using it in this battle. The lack of air power makes the Corridor division rarely killed in the air. But they can't play a big role. There are jumping soldiers such as apes in the jungle. Once the Chimera ants fly too low, they will be easily shot down. If they fly too high, they will not be able to help the Chimera ants fighting on the ground. In view of this, Corridor divided the division into two. One part was led by himself, crossing the expeditionary army from the air to the human village behind to find food for the queen. The other part went to the open area without dense forests to try their best to support the Chimera ants on the ground. Corridor was the reincarnation of a little boy who sacrificed himself to protect his sister. In the reincarnation world that Xiaoming personally experienced, the brother and sister were saved by Xiaoming. In the original work, Corridor was worried about the Chimera ant colony and the queen. When the queen was dying, he was one of the few division commanders who remained loyal to the queen. After the queen's death, he has been doing his best to protect the queen's descendants, the little Chimera ants reincarnated by Kate. Even Mo was moved by him. He was willing to provide protection for them. Corridor's division of troops was half successful. The legion he led did get some food for the queen. Together with the stored food, the queen did not starve to death in advance. The other half of the troops fought in the open area. Although they helped the Chimera ants on the ground, they were also wiped out by Ilmi and Hisoka. Ilmi's nails and needles can attack from a long distance. In open areas, flying Chimera ants are closer to the ground, and Ilmi has enough range to shoot them all down. The same is true for Hisoka. His stretchable love can not only pull Chimera ants down from mid-air, but also be used under his feet to launch himself up. Jumping into the air, he closed the distance between him and other Chimera ants, and then used many extended chewing gums to stick to many flying Chimera ants in one fell swoop. When he fell back to the ground, these Chimera ants were naturally pulled down, and the skeleton soldiers and puppets next to him rushed up. Directly drowned them. Flying Chimera ants are not exclusive to the Corridor division. There will be more or less flying soldiers in other teams. Cannon fodder can't deal with it, but masters can handle it. In the Phantom Troop, Franklin has a two-handed machine gun that can shoot into the sky, so he has no problem shooting flying soldiers. Finks has strong arm strength and can hit birds with stones. Most of Xiaoming's subordinates have energy weapons for long-range attacks, laser guns. There are also several aliens that can fly, so they just fly up and start fighting. Only the Bomb Demon trio is not satisfactory. They are good at close combat. After becoming insect humans, Voice of Life was stolen by Xiaoming with Secret Book of Thieves. So, Ganju, Bala, and Shabu put their minds on another ability, a pinch of gunpowder, to continuously strengthen its power. The powerful Chimera ants were all blown to death. Unfortunately, their talent for long-range combat is too poor. It is difficult to hit with a laser gun. They can only focus on close combat. Lobster Brabuda, Mantis, Crocodile, and other division commanders, along with their troops, were eliminated by Xiaoming's subordinates. A Chimera ant team led by the Lion King Haga also came to Kate and others according to the guidance of fate, arrangement of the system. This time, Haga did not bring the dragonfly Vreda and the bunny girl Shalin, hiding in a high place to observe secretly. Instead, under the pressure of Neferpitu, he stood at the front line with his subordinates. At this time, Haga didn't have many troops under his command. In the original work, after the queen died, he went to the Republic of East Gotu and joined the Ant King Miru M. So the three guards allocated a group of Chimera ants to him, and he was good at recruiting, which led to a relatively strong military force under his command. Later, it was his subordinates who blocked Killua, and most of those who fought against Moruoa Purple Smoke Mecha Corps in the capital of East Gotu were also his subordinates. In this life, at this point in time, he was only one of the 30 division commanders, and the Queen's ruling power was not reduced, so Haga didn't have many direct subordinates. Under Vreda's reconnaissance, Haga deliberately avoided the distribution area of puppets and skeletons, and ended up running into Kate and her group of 5. Xiao Ming deliberately did not allow the skeleton soldiers and puppets to appear around him. Haga was clever and avoided the cannon fodder, but unexpectedly hit a wall. Dragonfly Vreda was killed by Killua's thunder in mid-air. Bunny girl Shireen died from Kit's snake bite dance. Xiaja and Mew Mew each had a captain of soldiers. All the remaining Chimera ants, including Haga, were harvested by Kate's ultimate move Waltz of Death. Even Haga was not spared. Kate is strong, Xiao Ming has known it for a long time, and he is not very surprised. I didn't expect Kurtzaldik to be so strong, which is a bit surprising. She looks a bit like a reinforcement system. Add telekinesis to ordinary paper to make it a weapon that can cut gold and jade. Use a paper fan to create a whirlwind, drive the strengthened confetti, and attack the enemy from all directions. This is a fighting method suitable for both long and short distances. Even though the bodies of Chimera ants are very strong, their joints cannot withstand the attack of confetti. They were brutally dismembered. To be honest, the bunny girl Shireen is quite cute. Even though she is a Chimera ant, most people can't do it. Maybe only girls can be cruel to her. Seeing Kit's move, Xiao Ming felt that the Chimera ant Raimundo that was dismembered into 3 pieces was probably her work. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 1343. Above a river, 2 large trees connected by their roots formed a bridge. The roots were very huge, with a passage dug out and many rooms dug out. This is the border checkpoint of NGL. Although the Chimera ants had turned NGL upside down, even the top leaders were swept away. But the checkpoint was still operating normally. Those things had not yet affected the SCADA. A car drove over from afar, and 3 people jumped out of the car. It was Netero, the president of the Hunter Association, and his helpers Nob and Mo. This is the official Chimera Ant Crusade team. The team organized by Mutio Yu, Yin Xiaoming, himself. It was just a civilian volunteer army. Master, you are here. Xiaoming's 7 Yaoying clones left here saluted the master respectfully. Mutio Yu, are you a clone? He, interesting. Netero was very impressed with his apprentice's new ability. Being able to maintain such a strong clone at such a long distance, the growth of the apprentice seems to be beyond his imagination. Boy, how is the situation of the Chimera ants now? Mo Lao waved the huge pipe in his hand and asked. It's okay. My puppets and skeleton troops are searching for the Chimera ant nest. Some masters are mixed in the troops and have killed a large number of Chimera ants. But we haven't reached the vicinity of the nest yet. Once we get close, the Ant King's guards will probably take action, and we may not be able to handle it. Xiao Ming told the truth. You feel that you can't handle it before we even fight. You are still a child. Mo Lao didn't know how strong Xiao Ming was, and began to boast. When fighting with an user, if you talk about win or lose, you have already deviated from the topic. Generally speaking, we don't know the ability of the opponent. A moment of timidity and slackness will become a fatal blow that can turn the tide. The total amount of Nin power on the surface is not a reason to comfort yourself. It is natural to have wins and losses. This is the battle of non-users. But even so, I will still fight with a 100% chance of winning. This is the spirit of a non-user. When he said this, he did not have any pretense or bluffing emotions. He really had the momentum to look down on the world. Xiaoming felt envious when he saw it. He has been a coward all his life. He has never had this momentum of getting stronger when facing a strong opponent. Although in terms of combat power, he can beat more than a dozen MaleProtagonist without any problem. But they are real warriors. Xiaoming is not, he is a king. As a king, as the leader of a tribe, Xiaoming shoulders the survival issues of multiple forces. What a warrior faces is different. Warriors face battles, and kings often face wars. Maro can expect that he can defeat the strong with the weak in every battle. But Xiaoming can't. After all, defeating the strong with the weak is an accidental phenomenon. If measured on the scale of war, we must never expect such an accident. Stop talking, Maro. He has done a good job. Nob stepped forward to smooth things over. In the original work, Killua, Gon, and Kate met Neferpitou. The opponent's combat power was super strong, and Kate stayed behind to cover the rear. Killua knew that he was not strong enough, so he knocked Gon unconscious and took him to the border checkpoint. Moro's words were originally said to Killua at the time. The tone was even more unpleasant. There was irony in it, but the deeper meaning was advice. Nob also came out to smooth things over at the time. The purpose was to take care of Killua's face. Why be so aggressive to a child? In this life, Nob did it because he didn't want Maro to offend Mutou. After all, Mutou is very strong and has a wide network of contacts. We don't know what his temper is like. It's not worth offending him. Epsilon equals Omicron asterisk, alas. For his friend, Nob is also very worried. Next, under the guidance of the clone, the few people talked while walking. The clone reported the specific battle situation to the three masters in detail. During this period, Xiaoming secretly used his own mind ability on Netero. I will not die if my friend dies. This ability can ensure that Master Netero will never die. A few days later, when the three of them caught up with Kate and his group, the Chimera ants had all retreated to the inside of the nest for defense. Outside the range of Neferpitou's super large circle, all the masters stopped temporarily. They were scattered in several directions in the southeast, northwest, and northeast. They formed a siege on the Chimera ants' nest. Everyone can be said to be waiting for Xiaoming's attack order. Xiaoming is waiting for his master. The current situation is that Neferpitou's circle is extremely powerful and disgusting. Even these masters need to adapt. The so-called disgusting is a human feeling. This is actually a survival instinct. Humans will instinctively dislike situations that can endanger their lives. For example, standing on a high place, many people will feel dizzy, because falling down will kill them or get injured. Many people will feel sick when they smell the smell of rotten things, because those things are harmful to the human body. Facing Neferpitou's powerful telekinesis, it is understandable that everyone feels uncomfortable. This is the human body automatically telling itself, danger. Don't go over. The Chimera ant's nest is built inside the forest, but it is tall and sturdy, standing like a hill. It is actually much higher than several hills in the distance. It is very eye-catching and can be seen from a long distance. Because the situation is quite tense. Not only did Neferpitou sit on the top of the nest all the time, maintaining her circle. Even the newly born owl Yapfu appeared on the outer wall of the nest from time to time, ready to deal with emergencies at any time. After seeing the two guards from a distance, President Netero was also not calm. Well, the situation is not good. These two guys seem to be stronger than me. Stronger than you, President, this is a joke. If that's the case, no hunter can match them. Nob did not agree with the president's judgment. Netero smiled and said, The fact that I was the strongest NAN user was half a century ago. Now I am at most on par with you. Nob tried to smooth things over again. You can be confident about this. Netero sighed, my strength may be less than half of my prime. I really don't want to get old. It means that half of my strength is stronger than you. It's really unforgiving. The others were speechless for a while. Mutioyu suddenly spoke up, Master, do you want to recover to your full strength? If the Ant King is born, his strength will be higher than these two guards. Recover to your full strength? What does this mean? Everyone looked at Mutioyu with strange eyes. Their eyes were full of distrust. Only Gon and Killua knew what Mutioyu was thinking. They said in unison, which is rejuvenation potion. That's right. Xiao Ming raised his hand and took out a bottle of medicine that had been copied long ago and handed it over. Master, this medicine makes you 1 year younger if you take 1 pill. If you take 50 pills, you can recover to your full strength. What? Really? Great, everyone expressed their surprise and doubts, and their eyes were focused on President Netero. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhenshen. Chapter 1344. Looking at the young and strong President Netero, Kate, Nob, Amolawa, Mewtwo, Xiaja, Killua, and Kurd, all of them felt the unparalleled power in his body. Is this the strongest person at the top of all professional hunters? It really lives up to his reputation. Similarly, it was not only them who felt this power, but also Neferpitou, who was at the top of the Chimera ant nest and looking around. In fact, the distance between the two sides was still quite far at this moment. Neferpitou did not notice the other strong people. In her eyes, other people were not worth caring about at all. Mewtwo actually had power beyond her, but due to Xiaoming's personality, he never exerted his full momentum. The power returned to its original state, and almost no one could fully feel his power. Judging from the aura displayed by Mewtwo, it was not as threatening as others. Originally, President Netero's level was very high, and he had already reached the state of returning to his original state. He should not have been discovered by the Chimera ant. It's just that he just took the anti-aging potion and suddenly became nearly 100 years younger. As his body quickly grew stronger, his momentum surged. Some of it was too late to be restrained, and as a result, Neferpitou was shocked. Although President Netero's peak strength was about 50 years ago. However, that was not when his body was the strongest and his mental power was the most vigorous. It was when he had just reached the peak of his understanding of martial arts. Over the past few decades, his martial arts attainments have become deeper and deeper, but with the aging of his body, his physical strength has declined more and more, and his strength has inevitably declined. As an old man who has seen through the world, President Netero did not look for any opportunity to rejuvenate or live forever. He is willing to age and die according to the laws of nature. Today, if he had not personally felt that the Chimera ants were too threatening to humans, he would not agree to take the witch's rejuvenation potion. In fact, Netero could have taken all 100 pills. Even 100 years ago was not his strongest moment. His lifespan is really too long. His current strength is already considered cheating, and it is stronger than when he was the strongest in his life. The president only knew that this medicine came from the game Greed Island, and it would be gone after it was used up. He didn't know that this was actually a medicine copied by Mew Mew, and the original 100 medicines were still there intact. As many as he wanted. So he left 10 for his little apprentice in case of emergency. Looking at the 10 medicines taken back by Mew Mew, no one else cared, and Kurt couldn't help but have some thoughts in his mind. But she didn't have time to say it, because the danger was already here. Feeling the power of President Netero, Neferpitou roared and summoned Arliapafu inside the ant nest to take her place. Her leg muscles swelled wildly and exploded, and a huge force was emitted, and a large piece of the Chimera ant nest was crushed by her. With the force of recoil, Catwoman's body rushed quickly towards the direction of President Netero. She decided to eliminate the danger in the bud. If she couldn't beat the opponent, she also hoped to delay the enemy and let Pafu take the Chimera Ant Queen to move quickly. Neferpitou has an ability called Dancing with Black. It is an ability she uses only when she wants to fight with all her strength. It takes only 0.1 seconds from activating the ability to attacking. She summons the demon puppeteer by activating Dancing with Black, and the puppeteer manipulates Neferpitou's body through the telepathic string, allowing him to exert power and speed beyond the limit. Bit, who understands the characteristics of telekinesis, knows that even if she dies, in order to protect the king, her thoughts will become stronger after death. The ability of Dancing with Black will continue to exist, manipulating her own body, and fighting the enemy to the death with greater power. Either the opponent completely destroys her body, or the opponent is exhausted and dies. This is the obsession of being a Chimera Ant guard. After Neferpitou attacked, Aliapafu quickly took her place and released his circle to protect the nest. However, Aliapafu's circle, compared with Catwoman, has a much smaller range and can only barely cover the core part of the nest. It can't take care of the wider territory. He is not by the queen's side, so he won't worry too much. Because at this time, Yuppie was also born. With him guarding the queen closely, it was safe, not to mention that he also had a small clone there. Now we just have to wait for the Ant King to appear. I hope Neferpitou can delay enough time. Neferpitou's roar was not only heard by Pufu Yuppie, Netero, and his party, but also by the foreign aid surrounding the Chimera Ant nest. It was like a horn of attack. I don't know how these Kurora, Illumi, and Hisoka thought of it, but they all went to the Chimera Ant nest. Launched the final general attack. The tacit understanding of the masters is really hard to understand. Xiaoming, who saw everything from the clone and the parasite's vision, was a little confused. But he still cooperated to let himself summon the cannon fodder, and the subordinates also launched a collective charge. This doesn't need UN to feel. Thousands of puppets and skeleton soldiers surged in the forest, and Aliapafu could clearly see the army rushing to the nest. Worried. The decisive battle between Chimera ants and humans began abruptly when no one was prepared. Looking at the Catwoman rushing towards him like a gust of wind and lightning, President Netero knew very well that if he let her get close to him, he would be fine, but others would be easily killed by her unexpectedly. Amolawa, Kate, and Nob were still reassuring, but Xiaja, Killua, and Kurt were very dangerous. As for Mumu, he was not considered. Netero felt that he could not figure out the strength of this kid, so he left it to him. The president also used his energy to run his legs and rushed towards the Catwoman at high speed. Keep the battlefield as far away from these people as possible. These people were actually observing the Chimera Ant nest on a cliff. Catwoman and the president collided in mid-air and could not stay in the air, and fell into the forest below at the same time. Probably because of the great increase in strength, the president was full of confidence in himself, and he might also want to save some strength to deal with the Ant King, so he did not use 100-style Guanyin immediately. Instead, he relied on his own strength to deal with Neferpitou in the forest. The aftermath of the battle between the two turned the forest upside down. "I'll go help the president." Kate jumped off the cliff. Unexpectedly, she was stopped by Nob. "Wait. We should attack the Chimera Ant nest." "Why?" Amolao and Xiaja asked in unison, and the others obviously had the same idea. Nob said concisely, the Chimera Ant guard should not leave the king's side. She was willing to take the risk and rushed out, which means that the birth of the Ant King is at the most critical moment. She is afraid that the aftermath of the battle will kill the Chimera Ant Queen and cause the Ant Queen to die in her womb. Therefore, we must attack the Chimera Ant nest immediately. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 1345. After hearing what Nob said, Everyone suddenly realized it and looked at him with admiration. This logic is not difficult, but he was able to make such a judgment in a hurry. Everyone felt that Nob's brain was indeed a little faster than their own. Led by Kate and Emolawa, Mutiu, Xiaoji, Killua, and Kurt followed closely and rushed straight to the Chimera ant nest. Nob was stopped by Xiaoming's Seven Shadows clone, and whispered something in his ear. The two of them went to do some small conspiracy. The Chimera ants contracted their defense, and the army of the expeditionary team began to encounter stubborn resistance after entering the Chimera ant nest. The roads inside the ant nest are connected in all directions, and the space is not particularly spacious, which greatly limits the role of Xiaoming's puppets and skeleton soldiers. If the cannon fodders occupy all the space, the Chimera ants don't need to fight these cannon fodders, and they can fight as they please. After all, the attack power of low-level puppets and skeleton soldiers is too low, and they can't break the defense of most thick-skinned Chimera ants. Instead, they block the way. The masters such as the Phantom Troop and the Zaldik family cannot exert their combat effectiveness because they have no position on the front line. Fortunately, Xiaoming has many clones and parasites following the army. Seeing this situation, he immediately took remedial measures. Only the second-level puppets and skeleton soldiers will attack the ant nest. Their number is limited, which naturally leaves room for the masters to fight. The low-level puppets and skeleton soldiers that have filled the road in front have no time to withdraw. Xiaoming directly cancels the magic and turns them back into branches and bones. Other low-level soldiers are not idle either. They crawl up along the outer wall of the Chimera ant nest, drill into some holes when they encounter them, and begin to dismantle the outer wall of the nest. This is also a threat, but the Chimera ants have no time to fight this threat now. On the other hand, the foreign aide Xiaoming found is not a good guy. They knew that puppets and skeleton soldiers were cannon fodder, and when needed, they would kill them at will to clear the way for themselves. Nevertheless, after the expeditionary team entered the nest, the advantage of troops was not obvious, and the Chimera ants' resistance was more effective. What surprised Kurora, Hisoka, Illumi, Kate, and others was that the division commander was rarely seen among the Chimera ants on the front line, but there were many strange butterfly men. Aulyapufa made full use of his clone ability, and sent 6 clones of the size of the main body and hundreds of small clones of the size of flies to various battlefields to command the battle. Speaking of which, the combat effectiveness of a single Pufa clone is equivalent to that of Phaeton, Hisoka, Illumi, and others. But under the command of Aulyapufu, the Chimera ant army made it very difficult for the expeditionary team to advance. This was something that even the other 2 guards could not do. First, Pufu's speed was very fast, and no one in the expeditionary team could match him except Miu Miu. 1 fast against 3 slow, a great threat. Second, his ability of mind-reading scales of love spring can judge other people's emotions through airflow, and even feel their thoughts. It's almost like mind-reading. Even Neferpitu, who is also a guard, can see through it, not to mention the weaker humans in the expedition team. Knowing yourself and the enemy will naturally lead to victory in 100 battles. Finally, Pufu has the smartest mind among the 3 guards. It can be said to be genius level. Combining these 3 abilities, the Chimera ant army under his command caused great difficulties to the expedition team. The 9th member Paknata was even killed by Pufu. Kyubi, Zayak, Maki, Zayadai, and several people who were not very strong in combat were also injured and had to withdraw from the ant nest to protect themselves. According to the original work, Paknata should have died under Kurapika's ability in the plot of Yukiksen City. In this life, she died at the hands of Pufu. It can be regarded as the system's compensation. On the other hand, Gon and Killua were not that strong either, but under the close protection of Xiaoming, Pufu failed to succeed in his sneak attacks several times. Although Pufu was both wise and brave, it was a pity that after all, 2 fists could not beat 4 hands, not to mention that there were more than a dozen masters on the side of the expedition team. His hundreds of small clones were quickly discovered and more than 90% were eliminated. The 6 clones of the size of the main body were defeated one by the Masters. Illumi and Hisoka killed 2 together, the Phantom Troop solved 2 in groups, with the assistance of the Bomb Demon Trio, Kate and MaleProtagonist each killed 1. Finally, the expedition team rushed to Yuppie under the cover of a group of second-level puppets and skeleton soldiers. This is a large, slightly empty room. There are countless corpses piled up. In the room guarded by Yuppie behind him was the Chimera Ant Queen who was waiting for childbirth, and the relatively weak Pufa body. Everyone was shocked when they saw the scene here. I thought that many division commanders would be here to defend the joint defense. However, I didn't expect that those division commanders were indeed here, but only their heads and some limbs were left. Bird heads, turtle shells, wolf tails, mantis claws, owl feathers. The blood and flesh essence of their bodies were all hollowed out. It seems that they were killed by the guards. Zyuja hated people who hurt his companions the most, and asked angrily, "Asshole! Why did you kill your companions?" Others were also indignant. Although the Phantom Troop were not good people, they also valued their companions. They all glared at Yuppie. Yuppie didn't care about these weak guys at all. He just opened his big mouth with jagged fangs, hee, cold-blooded. Crollo saw the clue and asked, "Have all these guys been eaten by you?" "Huh," several people exclaimed, but after thinking about it, they thought it made sense. When there is a lack of food, it is not impossible for Chimera ants to devour each other. Yuppie laughed loudly. It is their honor to be the queen's food and dedicate themselves to the birth of the king. Hearing this, everyone felt terrified. No wonder they didn't meet the Chimera ant division leaders when they came in. It turned out that due to lack of food, in order for the king to be born smoothly, in order to ensure that the queen had sufficient nutrition, the 3 guards killed all the division commanders who were still alive and fed their flesh and blood to the queen. Ordinary soldiers and captains do not have enough nutrients in their bodies, so it is not cost-effective to eat them. Instead, they avoid disaster. However, they were arranged to fight against the Chimera Ant expedition team, and now they are basically all dead. In fact, what the expedition team didn't know was that just now, Yuppie saw the emergency and even took out part of his body's essence and fed it to the queen. So his strength is actually not as strong as in the original work. However, he was determined to burn his life to stop the expedition team. We must persist until the king is born. Yuppie's powerful aura suddenly burst out. The amount of mental power is something that almost everyone has never seen before. With so many masters here, there should be no problem in killing Yuppie. However, the other party's fierce flames were raging, and before his death, he would probably drag several people along with him. For a moment, everyone was a little intimidated by his momentum. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 1346. Well, your courage is commendable. Unfortunately, you are not good enough. A voice came from behind the expedition team. President, everyone looked back, and Kate, MaleProtagonist, Zyuja and others shouted immediately. The others were confused. Because the man who came over at this time looked like a middle-aged strong man in his 40s, not the old man that President Netero looked like. But his clothes were exactly what the president usually wore, and his telekinesis was also very strong, no less than the president, especially this person's appearance was very similar to the president. Could it be that this is the president's illegitimate child? Or did the president practice some strange telekinesis ability for this battle? It allows him to rejuvenate in a short time. They saw Kate and MaleProtagonist say that this is the president, so it was probably. At this time, it is estimated that no one is interested in playing pranks. So the Phantom Troop, Hisoka, and Illumi all showed extremely excited expressions. After all, the president of the Hunter Association, Netero, is recognized as the strongest hunter. His fighting power is above the peak of all professional hunters. Even these unruly guys would not think that they are stronger than the president. Any master would feel his blood boiling when he sees him fight in his prime. So lucky. Kate and the others knew Netero because they had seen him rejuvenate. But shouldn't the president be fighting with Neferpitou at this time? Could it be that he won so quickly? That's too much. Molau asked excitedly, "President, have you killed the Catwoman?" Netero shook his head and glanced at Mutio. He said, "No, the Catwoman was trapped by Nob and Mutio." Among the three guards of the Chimera Ant, Neferpitou is the most familiar master to everyone in the expedition team because he has been at the top of the ant nest for many years. I heard that Mutio and Nob trapped her. Everyone couldn't help but ponder for a moment. Do you think Mutio and Nob are so strong? Soon, everyone was relieved. The first to come to the rescue were the Phantom Troop, who had been wiped out by Mewtwo. Although they didn't say it, they admired Mewtwo in their hearts. They thought that no matter who Nobu was, Mewtwo did have this ability. Hisoka and Illumi also knew about this and also agreed that Mewtwo probably had this ability. How did Xiaoming do it? In fact, half of the credit should be attributed to Nobu. Thanks to his special mind ability Fourth Dimension Apartment. Nobu covered the wall or the ground with his hands and activated his ability to open a cave leading to the mind space. He could send people or objects from the cave to the mind space he created. The four-dimensional mind space has 4 floors and 21 rooms of varying sizes. One of them is a special safe for items. When entering the room, the entrance door will close, and you can only go out through another door in this room to return to the real world. A room can have more than 2 doors. The upper limit of the number of doors varies depending on the size of the room. The largest room can have up to 32 doors. Others can enter through 32 entrances, and after entering, they can also leave through 31 doors. It is still quite free. But even if a person leaves through other doors, he will still leave through the original cave. On the surface, he just disappeared for a while and then reappeared. However, Nob has a master key. He can connect the door of any room to any preset cave. As the owner of the four-dimensional apartment, under his leadership, he can instantly move people or objects to any place where a cave has been set. Nob does not need to do it himself for outsiders to enter the mind space. As long as the cave is set, others will enter by accident. In the original work, Nob himself was lying on the cliff, and there were Chimera ants in the forest who kept mistakenly entering the cave, and were killed by President Netero when they entered the space. This shows that when entering, Nob does not need to transport people in person. Just don't close the door and allow outsiders to enter. Along the way, Xiaoming has understood Nob's ability. With Nobu's pitiful mental power, he couldn't hide the secret under Xiaoming's telepathy. It was with this ability that Mew and Nobu were able to lock up Catwoman. This was the little conspiracy that the 7th Shadow Clone and Nobu had discussed before. The specific method was as follows. First, select a rectangular, not very large room. There are only 3 doors. Set the location of the entrance cave. Then Mew's 7th Shadow Clone will send a message to the fighting President Netero and inform the President of the specific location. The President can then accurately hit Neferpitou into the cave and fall into the mind space. This step is not difficult without intention. The key is that it is not enough to just hit him in. Neferpitou can easily go out another door and come out. So Xiaoming must find a way to trap her. The specific method is to arrange 2 7th Shadow Clone with Sherinan and some parasites in the room. Use 2 huge and hard bodies of Susanoo to block the other 2 doors. At the scene, Catwoman was trapped in the center of the rectangular space, and the doors on both sides were blocked by 2 huge Susanoos. She couldn't rush through. The long-armed giant swords of the two Susanos could easily attack Neferpitou in the center of the room. She was overwhelmed. In the battle in the reincarnation world that year, the Susanoo of the Seventh Shadow clone was easily broken by Neferpitou. In this life, a man should be treated with new eyes after 3 days of separation. First of all, Xiao Ming's supernatural energy has grown a lot, and Susanoo has become stronger. Secondly, the clone also used a large number of energy shields and energy shields from the Kyber Crystal weapon series. Blocked Neferpitou's attack route. Before the energy shields are exhausted, Catwoman cannot break Susanoo. And Xiao Ming's energy is almost infinite. There is no possibility of exhaustion at all. You can cross your feet and wait for Catwoman to use up all her strength. Then do whatever you want. It is a little difficult to kill her cleanly. You should know that Xiao Ming's strongest S-level attack has two kinds. One is to transform into a dragon warrior, with extremely strong combat power. But in the secret realm, there is no Xiao Xiao, and it is impossible to merge into a dragon warrior. The other is that when the opponent is extremely evil, you can use the reward good and punish evil sword to kill him directly. Unfortunately, Catwoman was born not long ago, and she is still far from being extremely evil. Even if he used the sword of reward and punishment to slash her, it would not be possible to reach the S-level attack power. At most, it could cause a few minor injuries, which would be a waste of energy. In the current situation, Xiao Ming would only focus on defense. Anyway, Neferpitou could not get out, so there was no need to kill her immediately. It was easy to make mistakes during the transition between offense and defense. It would be bad if he accidentally let her run away. It was safer to guard steadily. Besides, there was the Ant King and 2 guards outside. They might need Xiao Ming's support at any time. He could not use all his energy on a cat girl. After the Ant King was eliminated, a mere cat girl would not be able to make any big waves. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 1347. For this fact, Kate, Amolawa, and others who have been with Mutio and Nob for a while find it difficult to accept. They scratched their heads and couldn't figure out what method Nob and Mutio used to trap a master like Neferpitou. But now is not the time to go into details. Since the president is here, it means that Catwoman will definitely not be here for a while. The overall situation here is naturally presided over by the president. Even the Phantom Troop recognizes Netero's supreme command. After Netero arrived, Yuppie on the opposite side kept staring at him. His beast-like intuition told him that this was a guy who was more powerful than himself. He was full of uneasiness. The president glanced at him and then looked at the people around him. Suddenly, he put his palms together, and a huge golden multi-handed Buddha statue appeared behind him. It was 100-style Guanyin. "Go play, you guys," with Netero's disdainful voice. Dozens of right hands of the Guanyin statue slapped out at the same time. Almost everyone present was blown out of the ant nest by him. The one who was beaten the hardest was Yuppie. Netero showed no mercy to him. Flying far away and smashing into the ground, Yuppie vomited 2 mouthfuls of purple plasma in succession. He was already injured. But he had no time to heal himself. The queen must not be left unguarded, and the poof body there could do nothing now. However, his way back to the nest was blocked by a dozen hunters who were stronger than the leader of the Chimera Ant Division. Needless to say, of course it was Kate, Amolawa, Mutio, Ilmai, Hisoka, Kurora, Nobunaga, Phaeton, Finks, Franklin, Peel-Lef, Zyja, Killua, and Kurt. This group of people were also fanned out by the president. He didn't want anyone to disturb his decisive battle with the Ant King. For his own people, Beishi Guanyin just pushed them out gently. There was no intention to hurt them. After all, they were all meritorious people. As long as they didn't resist, they basically wouldn't be injured. As for some people who were unhappy, they had to dodge and block, so they attracted more Guanyan's palms, and they were inevitably at a disadvantage. In the end, no one could escape Netero's high-speed palm, and they all flew out. In the distance of the nest, there were still Xiaoming's 7 shadow clones, which were used to prepare for escape. Yes, Xiaoming was so cowardly. From their perspective, it seemed that someone was cleaning the nest. A broom threw out a lot of garbage. It crashed into the forest with a crackling sound. As for the bomb demon trio, as well as those mind beasts and summons, they were temporarily placed farther away by Xiaoming to prevent the enemy from escaping. The people on the expedition team quickly found their positions. They collectively besieged Yuppie. Franklin's two-handed machine gun was the first to show its power, with fierce and rapid firepower. Yuppie was not a good person either. He quickly grew multiple arms on his body, and the front of his arms was like a tortoise shell-shaped shield, blocking most of the machine gun's mind bullets. It doesn't matter if a few fish slip through the net, they are just lightly injured. Others launched offensives in layers and 3 dimensions. Everyone is a veteran, others know how to avoid Franklin's bullet trajectory, and Franklin also knows how to avoid friendly forces. At the same time, MaleProtagonist's purple smoke robot squadron appeared in the battle group. They transformed into the appearance of the people present and launched attacks. Yuppie couldn't tell the real from the fake in a hurry, so he was inevitably a little flustered. Fortunately, he had a lot of hands and feet, and they could regenerate. Even if he was a little flustered, he didn't reveal too many flaws. Whether it was swords, weapons, or fists, Yuppie actually took them all. However, he was really unable to find the weak ones to fight back. This battle was much more dangerous than the situation in the original book. In the original book, it was just MaleProtagonist with 2 apprentices and a mere 1. Besieged. The strength was completely insufficient. In this life, the 2 apprentices had not arrived yet. The decisive battle happened too hastily, and there was no time to notify them. But this group of people, except for Xiaja and Killua, are no worse than MaleProtagonist's apprentice. Even one can fight 2 of them. In such a fierce siege, Yuppie miraculously calmed down. He quickly saw the situation clearly. At this time, it was impossible for him to rush through these people's obstruction. Even if he rushed over, he would bring this group of people to the Queen. It is better to calm down and deal with them. The Queen was handed over to the other 2 guards. At this time, Yuppie had to pin his hopes on his 2 colleagues. Mutio Yu, Yin Xiaoming, did not join the battle. He was mainly concerned about the situation in the nest. Although the main body was swept out, there were still many parasites left there. Xiaoming opened a small space door casually and condensed the 7-star shadow clone again in the nest. It stands to reason that everyone was swept out, and Xiao Yapufu's main body should have been swept out. It was strange that he didn't see it just now. After the clones were condensed, it took about 0.5 seconds. Xiaoming saw the situation clearly. It turned out that when President Netero appeared, Pufu knew that things were not going well, and he saw that the birth of the king was only a little short of energy. So, he turned his main body into countless small bodies, decomposed into cells, and flew into the queen's mouth. This time, he did not hold back at all and completely dedicated his entire body. After eating these high-quality foods, he also felt the urgency of the situation. The Ant King broke through his mother's belly again and came out. The difference is that this time the queen did not object, but kept urging him. There was no time to say the name Miru that he had thought of long ago. The Great Mother gave up her life at the most critical moment. She even gave all her nutrition to her son. When the Ant King was born, the emaciated queen only lasted for 3 seconds, and lost her life after looking at her son. The Ant King in this life was malnourished, and his strength was weaker than in the original book. But his temperament was more brutal. The Ant King in the original book was born in a peaceful environment. He broke through his mother's belly despite his mother's dissuasion, and looked down on the world. He felt that he was the second oldest and the world was invincible. He had no feelings for anyone, whether it was his mother or the three guards. Later, because of the appearance of wheat, it changed completely. However, at this moment, the Ant King was born in distress. The children of the poor have grown up early. He knew how much his mother and the three guards had sacrificed for him. His mother and Alyapov had sacrificed their lives. Yuppie and Neferpitou were still dealing with powerful enemies, all for themselves. What filled his chest now was not pride, but deep hatred for humans. He immediately fought with President Netero. During this process, President Netero had the time and opportunity to stop him. Even if he took the opportunity to attack, he could seriously injure the Ant King. But the 90-year-old president was full of confidence in himself and wanted to have a good fight with the strong. Therefore, he did not interfere, but waited patiently for the birth of the Ant King. He happily fought with the premature baby who was just 1 day old. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhenshen. Chapter 1348. The battle between the Ant King and President Netero was extremely fierce from the beginning. The aftermath of the battle was very hot. Whether it was the clone of Mewtwo, Silver Xiaoming, or the parasite, he didn't dare to get too close. If he touched it, he would die, and if he touched it, he would be injured. Admittedly, if Susanoo and Energy Shield were used, he could still get closer. But such a conspicuous thing would almost certainly attract the ruthless attack of the Ant King in a rage. Although these defenses could withstand Neferpitu's attack, they definitely couldn't withstand the Ant King. And the main body of the character Mewtwo was still too weak. Unless Xiaoming's main body could enter the game, it was estimated that he could withstand the attack of the Ant King, but that was completely impossible. It was better to watch the battle from afar. Xiaoming also watched this battle in the original work from afar. That was in the reincarnation world of Hunter x Hunter. At that time, the Ant King was basically playing with President Netero. The president's attack could only cause some superficial injuries to the Ant King, and he could do nothing to him. In the end, if it weren't for the use of the super bomb rows of the poor to perish together, Netero would probably have ended miserably. It is precisely because of this that Xiaoming wants to try his best to change the fate of the master in the secret realm. So, the situation here is completely different. Through Xiaoming's efforts, the gap in strength between President Netero and the Ant King has almost been leveled. First, with the respect of his apprentice, Netero is 90 years younger and has reached a peak that his personal strength has never reached. Secondly, the Ant King is not well nourished and is a premature baby, so his strength is lower than in the original book. This leads to the difference in combat power between the two not being obvious. Thirdly, the Ant King was just born and had not experienced the military battle with Xiaoming. He failed to comprehend those powerful tactical concepts. Facing Netero's more than 100 years of combat experience, the Ant King suffered a great loss. Finally, because of the sacrifice and dedication of his mother and the three guards, the Ant King's mind is full of anger towards humans. If he were to fight against other people, this anger could also increase his fighting power. He could scare many people by charging and hitting without caring about anything. However, facing a top master like Netero, the anger disturbed the Ant King's judgment and caused the battle to fall into a stalemate. At the same time, Yuppie was fighting against a large group of hunters, and Neferpitou was fighting against Xiaoming in the four-dimensional apartment. The battles in these two places also fell into a stalemate. Catwoman was indeed targeted by Xiaoming. Her speed, strength, and special mind ability could not be fully utilized in the narrow mind space. It was so annoying. Yuppie's strength was indeed too strong. He could even tie against many more enemies than Neferpitou. Even if he suddenly broke out, with Yuppie's speed and strength, as long as the opportunity was right, it would be enough to put any hunter participating in the siege into crisis. If he risked being more seriously injured, killing or crippling an opponent would be a piece of cake. With the thickness of his blood bar, he might still have more than enough to replace all the people present. This is the racial advantage of the Chimera ants, with strong physique, strong telekinesis, and strong regeneration. But Yuppie still can't stand the hunters cooperating better and better with each other. Even if someone gets into danger from time to time, others can quickly make up for it. No one will pit their teammates at this time. Several masters performed very well. The first one is MaleProtagonist, whose purple smoke robot squadron can be sent up as cannon fodder at any time. Take the attack for teammates. The second one is Kurora, the leader of the Phantom Troop. He has a trick that allows someone to move a certain distance instantly. The conditions for the activation of the ability are unknown, but the effect is immediate. You can successfully avoid Yuppie's attack in an instant. And Kurora has a good overall view, keeping an eye on all directions and listening to all directions. If he sees someone in danger, he will definitely help in time. He won't mess things up. Of course, it is not ruled out that the leader is showing goodwill to MaleProtagonist. After all, this action, to a certain extent, was done by MaleProtagonist. If he can't satisfy MaleProtagonist, Kurora is worried that this guy will continue to attack the troop. He was really a little scared of this incredibly strong guy. The third one was Hisoka. His ability Stretchable Love was definitely a magic weapon for saving people. He could pull people away with one pull. In terms of wisdom, he was no less than Kurora. It was just that his personality was a little awkward. He sometimes saved people and sometimes didn't, which was very unreliable. The hole left by Hisoka had to be filled by MaleProtagonist, played by Xiaoming. He had always been away from the battlefield and patiently observed the situation. Xiaoming not only had the ability to stretch love, but also had many other abilities. He was actually the MVP who saved the most people. There was another person who also helped a lot. He deserved half of the military medal. That was Kurapika, who was at Bright Summit at the moment. In terms of the overall situation, Xiaoming was actually average, but Kurapika could do it very well. He was always there to guide Xiaoming's next move. Moreover, he did not deliberately do bad things. Even if his mortal enemy, the members of the Phantom Troop, were in danger, he would also remind MaleProtagonist to help in time. It was difficult for him. Little did he know that Kurapika had another purpose for doing this. Considering the overall situation was only one aspect. On the other hand, he didn't want Mewtwo to show his different treatment of the brigade at this time. He wanted to use Mewtwo as a clue to trap the brigade in the future. Since Mewtwo had an agreement with the brigade a long time ago, Kurapika could not use Mewtwo's fighting power to deal with the brigade after this battle. However, a smart person can have 100 plans in one step. Kurapika still has many ways to harm the brigade through the wood. Make sure that the brigade members can't see the clues, and even the wood himself can't see it. The first change in this 3-point stalemate occurred in Nobu's 4-dimensional apartment. It was a bit naive to think that Neferpitou could be trapped so easily. Before, Catwoman was tightly trapped in a small mind space by Xiaoming's clone using Susanoo and energy shield tactics. After a long time, she saw that something was wrong. The opponent was obviously fighting with her. Although the two sides fought non-stop, the enemy did not mean to kill her. Although she was not in any danger of life, Catwoman also understood a truth, that whatever the enemy wanted to do, she wanted to destroy it. If the opponent has a special trick for her, it is very likely that there are ways to deal with the queen and other guards. She must not be trapped here. So, Catwoman's powerful mind ability talent came into play. Set up a more stringent oath and restriction. She actually developed a new mind ability in the battle. What a genius! The 9-live cat that can't be trapped, Neferpitou can escape from any special space. Special space can be a mind space or other types of space. For example, a maze. Neferpitou needs to escape from the special space at the cost of a so-called life. At the same time, this space cannot trap her again. Since she is a 9-lived cat, she only has 9 chances to escape in her life. But after the last escape, Neferpitou will only have 24 hours left to live. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 1349. Xiaja. Get out of the way. With a roar, Kate suddenly rushed to Xiaja's side, brushed past a black shadow, and his right arm was cut off at the shoulder. Everyone looked closely and saw that the person who was facing the broken-armed Kate was the Neferpitou they had seen before. In an instant, several figures came to protect Kate, Xiaja, and others. With the help of her new mind ability, the 9-life cat that can't be trapped, Catwoman escaped from Nobu's 4-dimensional apartment in one fell swoop. This was something that even Xiaoming hadn't expected. He was stunned for a moment. He was stunned, but Catwoman didn't. She swept with a circle and saw that there were battles in both directions. On one side was the original Chimera ant nest, and President Netero faced the Ant King. Although Neferpitou saw the new Ant King for the first time, her blood told her that this was her king. On the other side, Yuppie was fighting a group of threatening humans. The battles on both sides were in a stalemate. But the breath of Aliapafu was completely gone. Following the guidance of her bloodline, Catwoman rushed to the battlefield of the king at the first time, but she received instructions from the Ant King just after 2 steps. Don't come over to mess with me, go help Yuppie. This is an order. So Neferpitou immediately turned around and rushed to Yuppie. At this time, Xiaja was coordinating new tactics with Mewtwo. He and Killua were not strong enough to get to Yuppie. So Xiaoming discussed with Xiaja and asked him to charge up for a guessing fist punch. This is Xiaja's strongest move. Yuppie will also be very painful if he is hit. The problem is that Xiaja needs a long time to charge up, and with his speed, it is impossible to hit Yuppie. This is where Mewtwo has to intervene and help. Let Xiaja charge up in a safer place first, and after the charge is completed, Xiaoming instantly opens the space door. Let Xiaja's fist pass through the space door and hit Yuppie directly. Retreat after the fight. 1 punch, we earn 1 punch. Xiaoming was also worried about Xiaoji. If he didn't do this, Xiaoji might rush up to find Yuppie by himself. Wouldn't that be courting death? When Neferpitou quickly moved over, he happened to find Xiaoji, who was accumulating power outside the central battle group. In her opinion, this was a threat, and she could just deal with it. It happened so fast. From Neferpitou's sudden disappearance to her rushing to Xiaoji, it took less than 2 seconds. Xiaoming didn't react so quickly. Instead, Kate had been paying attention to the master's son, so she was able to come out and stop him at the first time. Under the guidance of fate, arrangement of the system, Kate's right arm was cut off by Neferpitou as in the original. But he will definitely not die this time. Don't you see what his teammates are at the moment? Although they didn't have time to help Xiaoji, they had time to help Kate. The first to appear beside Kate were Mew Mew's 3-7 Shadow clones, Mo Lao's 6 Purple Smoke Mecha teams, and Nobunaga and Franklin. Of course, Franklin was not fast enough, and he was sent here by Kurore using teleportation. Catwoman lost the opportunity to solve Kate's trouble in one fell swoop. Just when they were about to fight with Neferpitou, a fist suddenly appeared in front of Neferpitou and knocked him away. This was an angry punch from Xiaja. Originally, he wanted to beat Yuppie, but Xiaoming instantly changed his target. Xiaja was full of grief and anger, and punched Catwoman so hard that she vomited blood and flew hundreds of meters away. Just as the hunters present were quickly figuring out who should stay and who should deal with Neferpitou, a group of strange things rushed out of the forest and fought with Neferpitou. This group of guys was Xiaoming's mind beasts, 13 aliens, and 2 transformers. Before, they fought in their own team, and only a few people in the Crusade team occasionally saw 1 or 2 of them. At this time, so many suddenly appeared, which also scared everyone. Seeing that they were in the same group as themselves, everyone was very fortunate. It was really dangerous just now. If the expedition team had to split up to hold back the 2 guards, there would probably be a lot of casualties. These guys came at the right time. Someone thought that they could have come out earlier. Why did they delay until now? Why so many whys? Xiaoming kept this mobile force as a backup. He was worried that the Ant King and Yuppie would escape and need someone to intercept them. The fearless beasts are the most suitable for this kind of thing. Now, an emergency has occurred, and Neferpitou has run out of the mind space, and Xiaoming has to use this reserve team to deal with her. This is an all-metal force. They have all been given force seeds by Xiaoming and can use weapons and armor from the Kyber Crystal series. They have strong attack and defense power. It's not so easy for Catwoman to remove the parts from them. Neferpitou is in the same situation as Yuppie. If she fights hard, she can naturally escape from the encirclement of more than a dozen King Kongs. But where to run? These iron guys will definitely follow her. Whether she goes to find the king or Yuppie, she will bring the disaster with her. So Neferpitou had no choice but to kill most of these guys on his battlefield before he could talk about other things. Let's talk about Kate. After Gon hit her, he immediately supported Kate. He looked at Kate's injury with worry. Killua ran towards the broken arm that flew to the side. But suddenly someone appeared and picked up the broken arm. Everyone looked and found that it was Maki, the 3rd member of the Phantom Troop. In the previous battle, she and several other auxiliary members of the Phantom Troop were injured by Al-Yap. They found a hidden place to heal their wounds and are now fine. They have been paying attention to the situation of the battle. Seeing Kate's broken arm, Maki immediately came out of hiding and used her ability to reattach Kate's broken arm. Seeing that she was safe and sound, the members of the Phantom Troop were relieved. They had been worried about these people. Since Maki is fine, the others will probably be fine too. Kate is even luckier. Her arm was reattached right after it was broken, and she will recover better in the future. It's just that the place where Maki just reattached needs a certain amount of time to recuperate, so she can't do it. But the current situation seems to require Kate's high-level combat power. Kate gritted her teeth and stood up, and it seems that she wants to continue fighting with her injuries. Helplessly, Xiaoming's several clones had to cast several healing spells on Kate, allowing him to recover quickly. This is good. Everyone saw it, and everyone asked for rain and dew equally. With this ability, why didn't you use it earlier? In the Bright Summit, Kurapika nodded to Xiaoming, agreeing that he could use his ability to restore health and mana to others. Originally, Kurapika's plan was to severely injure the Phantom Troop so that they could launch a sneak attack after the battle. He didn't intend to use healing magic on them. But now that the healing ability has been exposed, there is no choice but to treat everyone equally. Of course, Xiaoming tried to delay the attack as much as possible, and only used healing magic on the people in the worst situation. It means that this kind of healing ability cannot be used casually. You should all take it easy. This performance is in line with the characteristics of the Nin ability. No one has any objection. This is already very lucky. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhenshen. Chapter 1350. Although the reserve team was used to temporarily stabilize the situation, the incident with Neferpitou also gave Mutio Yin Xiaoming, a reminder. The 3 guards are all talented people. Who knows, Neferpitou or Yuppie will brainstorm for you and come up with some strange tricks. You may not be able to deal with it at that time. In a hurry, Xiaoming had an idea. He thought of the two apprentices of Mo who have not yet arrived, Nicolu and Xiaochuo. The two are still in the neighboring country of Ngl, the Republic of Locario, waiting for the call of the master. They don't know that the decisive battle between the expedition team and the Chimera ant has begun. Both of their skills are quite useful, and the most distinctive one is Nicolo's. The sky does not know that I am the only one who suffers. You can lend your telekinesis to the enemy, and then increase the interest by 10% every 10 seconds. When the principal and interest exceed the total amount of the opponent's telekinesis, the opponent will immediately go bankrupt and be forced into a dead state for 30 days. The so-called absolute state is a state where you absolutely cannot use telekinesis. Once a telekinesis user loses his telekinesis, he will be at the mercy of others. Yujin, the strongest member of the Phantom Troop, can be easily killed by Kurapika even in the absolute state. Chimera ants can probably retain a considerable degree of combat effectiveness due to their stronger bodies, but the gap must be huge compared to their peak state. It's a pity that with Nakuru's ability, there is no way to lend enough telekinesis to the three guards to make them bankrupt quickly. Compared with any guard, his total telekinesis is just a drop in the bucket. Xiaoming thought, Nakuru has less telekinesis, but I have more. Thieves have more. If I can use I don't know that I am the only one who suffers. It only takes a few seconds, at most a few minutes, to make a guard bankrupt. Even the Ant King can probably be dealt with by this trick. However, this trick also has flaws, or in other words, it has major limitations. The difficulty of using it to deal with the Ant King is simply doubled. Because if you want to calculate the interest, the distance between Mutio and the enemy cannot be too far, otherwise the interest calculation will stop. If you are too close to the enemy, you will definitely be easily hit. It is absolutely impossible to hide in Guangmingding and wait for the opponent to go bankrupt. So this trick should be fine for dealing with the two guards who are surrounded by our masters. It's a headache to use it against the Ant King. Of course, the premise of doing all this is that Xiaoming can use this ability for himself. Theoretically, this is not difficult. His clones have already found Nicolu and Xiaochuo. The first way is to eat Nicolu directly. In the short term, you can use Xiaoming's copycat ability to become Nicolu and use his special skills. In the long term, after digesting him well and figuring out the principle, you can also master this skill. But the evil act of eating people, especially eating a good person, does not conform to Xiaoming's character and personality. As Quafu Hades, how can he deliberately do such an evil thing? Then there is a second way. That is, use private tutor to learn Nakuru's ability to read. Xiaoming looked at Nakuru's ferocious appearance, and imagined him wearing a teacher's uniform. Xiaoming almost vomited. This will cause psychological trauma. This trick has been used on men before. In the world of My Date with a Vampire 2, Xiaoming once used this ability on Jin Zhengzhong. Teach him telekinesis. The way Jin Zhengzhong wears a student uniform is also very hilarious. But it's mostly funny. Jin Zhengzhong is thin and not so eye-catching or disgusting. Nakuru is really not good. This guy is as strong as a bull, and his face is full of fat. Just thinking about it is unbearable. I have to reconsider the third method, which is to transform Nakuru into a bug human. While strengthening Nakuru, you can also record his abilities in the Bugman General Star Record. In this way, Xiaoming can use them at will. However, after careful consideration, it still doesn't work. Because the Insect Man General Star Record has strict restrictions on the inclusion of new abilities. One of them is that the other party must be willing. So unless Nicolu himself really wants to transform into an insect man. Otherwise, if he is forced to transform, how can he willingly share his abilities with Xiaoming? Moreover, to use the abilities in the Insect Man General Star Record, the Insect Man's own telekinesis is required. If Xiao Ming's own telekinesis is not used, it is also meaningless. At this point, Xiao Ming's idea fell into a dilemma. A flash of inspiration suddenly occurred to him, and he suddenly remembered a person who had always actively wanted to transform into an insect man, Kurapika. Kurapika's obsession is to seek revenge on the Phantom Troop and to recover the eyes of all the tribe members who are stranded outside. But with his IQ, he knows that these two goals are almost impossible to achieve. Human power is sometimes limited. With his own efforts, he can only recover some of the fire red eyes and kill some members of the troop. That's the end. Although his telekinesis ability is very powerful, the side effects are also very large. Some key abilities will seriously consume Kurapika's lifespan until he dies. Kurapika has already thought about this. Otherwise, he would not have cultivated this ability. This time, when he followed Mew to fight the Chimera ants, he suddenly saw another possibility. Having stayed in Mew's mind space, Bright Summit, for so long, he naturally saw the Bomb Demon Trio. Learn about their changes before and after receiving the Insect Man evolution needle. Kurapika was intrigued. After a period of understanding and analysis, he discovered that by transforming into a bug man, perhaps both wishes could come true after he became a bug man. First of all, insect humans have powerful physical attributes and total mental power that far exceed humans in all aspects. Just like Chimera ants. Secondly, the lifespan of insect humans seems to be very long. The lifespan you can consume will increase. In the end, it was also an idea he had given up on. That is the revival of the Luda clan in Wangku. This wish may be realized in another way. As the last member of the Koluda tribe, he can indeed get married and have children, and try to have as many descendants with his own bloodline as possible. However, from a biological perspective, it is basically impossible for a group to continue when there is only one person left. Besides, even if he is lucky, he will give birth to many descendants of the Koluda clan. But in this world, his descendants will only become the targets of plunder by bad people. The Phantom Troop, the gang, and some people who hide deeper will never let go of the new flaming eyes. Why let future generations suffer this crime again? However, it is different when transformed into insect humans. Descendants of insect humans with fiery red eyes are naturally protected by the King of Wood. No more worrying about the bad guys. At least the Phantom Troop will never dare to provoke Mew again. Even the A-level thieves gang is like this, let alone others.